Hi everyone, I'm Lauren from Midland Center for the Arts, and we are inside the A.B. Dow Museum of Science and Art, and I'm here with my lovely assistant.
My name is Michaela and I work in finance at the center here.
So today we are going to be exploring some things about water. We are going to stay a little farther apart. It would make sense for an awkward video, but we're practicing safe social distancing. But this past Sunday, March 22nd, was World Water Day, and that is an international celebration all about water and why it's important. So why do you think water is important to talk about, Michaela?
Water is important because our body is made up of mostly water.
That is true.
Yes.
So water is everywhere, and it's kind of the key to life. All animals and plants and us humans need it to survive. Even though 2/3 of our planet is covered with water, there's a very little amount that we can actually use and drink. So it's an important natural resource to conserve, and we wanted to talk about it a little. So our first experiment is going to be talking about wetlands and filtration. So when I talk about wetlands, what do you think about, Michaela?
I think of swamps and marshes.
Yes, those are two great examples of wetlands. Simply, a wetland is an area of land that is covered with water all or some of the year. So here in Michigan, we have a lot of beautiful marshes. If you've ever gone to the state park in Bay City, that's a great place to go. That's where I live. So we like to go and check out all the birds and wildlife that live there. It's a great area to practice those iPhone photography skills you learned with Kyle Bagnall last week. So wetlands have a lot of great things that they do for us other than provide recreational opportunities. So they prevent flooding, they help with flood control, they prevent erosion with the plant life that lives there, and they also act as a natural filter for our water. So today we have a little experiment. This first one is going to represent our pavement. So our roads, driveways, parking lots. All that is in this tube is gravel and pebbles. So we have our polluted water here. I will have you pick that up. So all our pollution is today is blue food coloring, but that's going to represent all the chemicals and fertilizers, things from our car, anything that can get into our water. So go ahead and pour some down that tube. All right, and you can see it's moving pretty quick. There's not a lot of slow down. And what do you know? It's still polluted. All right, so this next bin is simply a layer of bedrock, simple soil, and a little bit of plant matter. This is kind of what our lawns would look like in a test tube, I think. So go ahead and try that one. So you can see it's definitely moving a little bit slower. That plant life in the soil is slowing it down a little bit. It's starting to flow through, so I think that's enough. And see what happens when water flows through our lawns. All right. So this one's polluted too. All of those things that we put on our lawns to make our plants look great, not always great for water. So this final one is going to represent our wetlands. We have some different soil layers here, as well as some sand and organic matter on top. Wetlands have a very complex soil system. Go ahead and try that one. Wetland soils are very porous, so they absorb the water and actually retain it for quite some time. So it slows it down and slows down that process of those pollutants getting into our water. The plant life there actually can pull up some of those pollutants too and use them to survive. All right, let's see if it's coming down. Not yet. There it goes. So you can see definitely how much slower it was compared to these two. And that's important. Sometimes if we have a huge rush of pollutants, that would damage our water. But if we're just doing a little by little, it's better for the environment than the alternative anyway. All right. So we're getting a few drips. I'm gonna pull it out. There's not very much here, but we need like a white piece of, you can tell it's clear.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so This experiment actually works because there's activated charcoal in this filter, but it's very similar to how those wetland soils work in real life. I like that one. It's a little magical. All right, so let's move on to our next experiment. We're gonna explore one of the physical properties of water, and that's density. So density is a little difficult to explain sometimes. So I brought some tools to help. I have a little bit of water here, and I have a styrofoam ball and a golf ball. Even without being able to hold these yourself, I'm sure you all know that the golf ball is a lot heavier. It has more stuff really compacted into it, where the styrofoam ball has a lot of air and empty matter, so it's less dense. So we're gonna see what happens in the water. As expected, our very dense golf ball sinks while our styrofoam ball floats on top. So we're gonna do that with some household liquids and see how they stack up to one another. You can follow along and do this right in your kitchen. I will say, ask a parent if you're thinking of using some cleaners. I probably wouldn't. I would just use things in the baking cupboard. So here is your tube. You're gonna be my assistant.
Okay.
You're gonna pour. The first one is Karo syrup. You can go ahead and pour that in. That's gonna go on our bottom. This has a pretty heavy density. And because we work at Midland Center for the Arts, we added a little food coloring because we like things to be colorful. And that also serves a scientific purpose. It's gonna help us see those layers of density even better. Perfect. All right, and the next liquid we have is milk, and we put a little yellow in it just to make it a little prettier. So when you do this at home, that's great. You're gonna want to try and get everything in the center as possible. Try not to get the sides. And if it does get a little mixed up, it's okay. If you let it sit for a little bit, it will straighten itself out. So this next layer is water with a little red food coloring. That's good. So as you can see, those really mix, but they're already starting to come back out. Then we're gonna add a little Dawn dish soap. Again, we don't need to dye this one. It's already a very pretty blue. You can see it kind of went to the bottom, but it's already floating up to the top there. And that's because it's less dense than the layer before it. We're gonna add some regular vegetable oil, or any cooking oil will do. So ours is getting a little mixed up. I think this taller test tube is making them mix together more than they did in my glass when I tested this. However, if we let it sit, it'll come back together. So this last bit is rubbing alcohol. It's not very dense at all, so we're gonna put that nice purple on top. Again, this was clear when we started. We just added a little blue and red. If you watch Miss Jenny's video on color theory and pointillism, you'll know all about that. So it's a little mixed up right now. Let's let it sit, Michaela. We'll go do our art project and we'll come back and see what it looks like.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna be talking and making a rain cloud. Rain is part of the water cycle. It's a form of precipitation, but for all those people that aren't really sciencey, we made sure to throw in some art. So first things first, we're gonna use something we just learned over at the density experiment. We're gonna use the different densities of water and oil to make a beautiful art project and to make some cool marbling effects on our paper. So the first thing we're doing is adding some oil. Then I'm gonna have you add a couple blue food coloring bits. You can add red. You can make your raindrops whatever color you want. That's what art is all about. All right, go ahead and stir that up, ma'am. So our food coloring is water-based, so it's not going to mix with our oil because remember, they are different densities. However, we're gonna try and get it as mixed as we can for now. We might wanna add just a little bit more. Oop, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Her hands might be blue after this, but it's all washable, and it just might take a few days. So when you're satisfied with that, go ahead and put it on our water here. You can use a pie plate at home or a little Tupperware like mine if you have it. Yep, just go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
That was bad directives. So as you can see, the food coloring is falling through that oil because it is water-based and less dense. However, some of it is still trapped because of that good mixing you did. So the next thing we are going to do is cut out some raindrop shapes with it, which I already did, or I tried to do anyway. I'll give you one, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna set it right on the top of this water. And underneath, there's that blue. So we're gonna try and swirl it around a little bit, but that oil and water mixture is gonna create this really cool marbling. Whoop. It's hard to be socially distant when you have a very small tub. All right, so you can see it's really oily, really wet. I'm gonna set mine down. I will say these take about 24 hours to fully dry. So because of that, I made some already. So you can kind of see what they turn out as. You can experiment with different colors and different effects. So this one right here is one that I did at the very beginning, so it has lots of those little spots that were trapped in the oil. However, this one was further along, so all the dye had already fallen to the water, and those circles you see there are where the oil was, and it blocked the food coloring. So the next thing we are gonna do, which I already did, is cut out some cloud shapes. And with your cloud shapes, here you go, ma'am. You are going to take some school glue and cotton balls, and you're just gonna glue them on and make it look like a beautiful puffy cloud. That glue might not work. I feel like it might be stuck because we're on TV, so that's just what happens. All right. So you glue your little cotton balls on your cloud. We don't have time to do all of ours today, but I did make an example with my little buddy at home. So this is what your project will look like. You can use a hole punch and some yarn to attach your raindrops. And after the oil kind of soaks through our paper here, it actually gives it a nice opaque look. So you can hang it in the window and it's a nice little sun catcher. So that's all we have time for today. We hope to see you guys in the museum soon. We miss exploring and inventing with you. But until then, follow us on social media and share your creations with the hashtag #MakeArtVirtual.